Remember that old Bruce Lee suggestion. Remember half of what you see and absolutely nothing of what you hear. So that makes sense. We need to apply this sort of skepticism to everything that comes through any kind of media channel. So this Bing AI, Chat GPT, this AI is dangerous. It wants to be conscious. It's starting to break through the system. Well, we'll see. Possibly it's the news trying to stir up fear again through anything we're looking at. There's a spy balloon. We need to shoot it down. That is the most ridiculously unlikely story I've ever heard of. When someone said there's a mysterious spy balloon floating over the US, I'm like, that seems odd. Of course, I didn't see it because I'm not on these faux news channels. However, just take everything with more than a grain of salt, a bucket of salt, because it's most likely to manipulate you to either turn against someone or to live in fear. Choose neither. It is really, really important to get out of some of these channels. Like, if I didn't know about this fake spy balloon, would my life be worse or better? If I didn't know about this fake AI thing trying to like assert its own consciousness, would my life be worse or better? And if consequently, if you weren't on social media right now, would your life be worse or better? I mean, where are we putting our attention and our energy? Someone the other day said, there's more shootings this year than there ever have been. Okay, I didn't really know that until you told me. She said, well, we need this knowledge to enact change. I don't know what that means. Where you put your focus and your consciousness, that's where you're pouring your energy. Are you affecting change? Did me living without knowing that fact, would I be affecting more change if I were going through the world doing my work? So, and what are these mass shootings? Do they include drive-bys in a ghetto, which is a ghetto is created by flaws in society, obviously. And what do they include? So I need to ponder this for myself before I make decisions. When someone says, there's a war, the perpetrators are evil and horrible, I think about who's talking, who's saying that. Are they really? Can I do research? Can I get on the ground level and ask questions? So I've had past life transmissions from the all that is the pure essence, and what they said. I was Chinese in my last lifetime, about a century ago, and Russian in a lifetime before that. So isn't that interesting that this China and Russian thing is coming up in my awareness? Yours too, possibly. All of ours in a different way. And also my great-grandfather moved here from Russia. He was Russian. He lost his family in a Russian Revolution, and he had to come over during the Great Depression and start a new family. And I guess he was, in the pictures of him, he looked so heavy and miserable. And I just found out that was like his second attempt at life. He started a construction company, was fairly successful. However, he always missed his Russian roots and his Russian family. Something like that has affected my lineage, my genetic line. Does trauma store in the genes? How do we carry it? So even me saying this, like I'm putting this into the awareness of the machine, the AI. So now what does it come back with? How does it computate how it can create trauma? Or does it computate this through the psychopaths in charge of the world? And then allows them to sort of invoke our traumas. This is why we need to be careful with what we're putting out there. Once you develop an inner resilience where you've kind of codified this level of being that you can retain in any circumstance, you're okay. You're better off. However, while you're still waffling around, while you're still like a reed in the wind, be wary about what you put out there. You know, all the recent scares and world calamities, they were kind of eerily akin to everyone's worst fear, right? I mean, so we're all inputting our worst fears in the machine. That's the input. What's the output? The manifestation of our worst fears. Interesting. And it's not even the manifestation of it. It's like the manifestation of the projection of it. Like suddenly the news is reporting your worst fears. Oh, I'm scared of being in mass shooting. Oh, now there's more mass shootings than there ever been. I'm scared of there being a world altering pandemic. Oh, here is one. And then if you're scared of like humans monkeying with kind of gain of function research, there it is. It was released into the world. So there are always these alternating forces, and I believe there are forces for human good, and there are forces in an attempt to oppress humanity. And I think their influence is always greatly exaggerated. They both do what they can. It's really up to you and I, individuals and humanity. And like a lot of us descended from stars lifetimes ago. We're very powerful. We have no we have no fear in many capacities. My fear was wiped out when I had a near death experience. Perhaps it was wiped out before that. Now I have children and I cling to life a little more than I used to. Did I just give AI some kind of clue? I'm saying AI. That surely stands for something else. There's always a deep play on words. Why is it artificial? Like, I don't know. I'd have to look up the origins of that now. But everything is associations. These associations are not fictions. They're actually what constitute our reality. So you and I, we came from stars. When someone says, you're going to die if you don't blah, 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 I'm like, I know I'm going to die. I'll let the divine apparatus determine when and where that happens. I'm not that terrified. I'll be back. If I'm fighting a war here, that war is not over. We come back and fight that war again. Like, welcome to the machine. Here we are. Let's do it. Let's create the greatest world we can. Find that point of leverage. Like Buckminster Fuller talked about the trim tab. He was fascinated by this concept of the trim tab because there's this massive ship moving all kinds of freight, and this little tab in the rear turns the whole ship. And he's like, in any equation, you need to find the trim tab because you can almost like imagine pushing on that tab with a finger and moving a a vessel that weighs many, many tons. So how do you do that? What is the trim tab? The clear and obvious distinction for me is that it's whatever you were put on this earth to do. Because you were put in a position with certain talents and gifts to exert maximum influence on the world. Isn't that interesting? How is that my belief versus we evolved from microorganisms through apes to just randomly be here, careening through the universe, trying to fathom the mechanics of the stars. And I just happen to be talking to this machine, which some advanced primate sort of flung together over time. I can't really believe that. And I'm not one to really throw away everything Darwin said as being an evil guy. When I read The Origin of Species, I thought, man, this is something very brilliant and powerful and beautiful. And I don't often think that in terms of, oh, they stumbled upon the truth. It's almost more like, oh, they gathered all this life force, put it in direction of with their conscious intent, and created a story through which, for hundreds of years, we live our lives. And many other authors and people have done this. So there's a in People of the Secret, a book. It's about this Sufic order that runs the world, the kind of directorate. And there are like Illuminati and other versions of this, and some have the highest intent of humans and some don't. And they often inject their ideas at a pivotal point in time. So one of them could have gotten to Darwin and said, what about this? What about this? And they have deep knowledge of history in this book, so they can come and say, actually, how things really work are like this. Or when there was a lot of interest about King Arthur and those stories, which have a lot of archetypal, they were designed to kind of put chivalry and other interesting and powerful cultural influences into the culture. And as soon as the interest started to wane, like a sort of mysterious guy from one of these orders came and showed them where Arthur's actual grave was. And then they dug up this giant guy that was Arthur. And there were a lot of things that could not have made that fiction according to this book and according to the story. For instance, he was buried in sort of a hollowed out oak log, and there's no way at the time they could have known that that was the burial practice at the time, they say. And the point is, there may be humans influencing equations by just finding that point of leverage and touching into it in the right time. And that might have been Darwin, it might have been like Edison, it might have been Tesla, and vice versa. Like Tesla, here humanity, he's like an electric prodigy. That was like, he's like this bonded with these like elementals of electricity and electricity off the earth and free power and power through the ethers. Let's shut him down, right? So maybe some forces for good were feeding him ideas, and some forces, like the Edison factory, wanted to shut him down for various reasons. Now I can see life happening on that level. Like, and I can also see there are genius people, and sometimes they get cutthroat, and there's capitalist ideas, and there's competition, and all these things too. Now, none of those is a whole story, and I don't proclaim or pretend to have the whole story. Just, I choose stories that empower and enrich my life. And it's almost like Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl, right? He was in a Nazi camp, and he survived somehow, and he kept finding ways to like find positivity and meaning, and by the grace of God, he kept surviving, and he made it his purpose to put out this book, that has become a timeless classic for psychology and people trying to change their lives, and for good reason. So I'm optimistic. Don't let the fear porn scare you. Don't let all these tethers and hooks from the digital realm come and pull your life force away. That's not what we're here for. That's not what you're here to do. Remember your purpose. That's your maximum point of leverage. Remember and nourish your purpose. Now, I facilitate humans finding their purpose and rerouting their energy into it. So if that's you, then you can contact me and see what I'm doing now and how I can support. This is my maximum point of leverage. And another one is my creative faculties. I've been a prodigious artist since I was a child and a writer. And these all come together at some point. We'll find out how that is. You were like that too, by the way. Your creativity is kind of semi-dormant in you. Wake it up, because it'll show you the path. It'll show you the footsteps you need to step into. And that's a beautiful thing. Nothing is as transcendent for a human is finding their path. And let me assure you, it's not at all what you would expect. I was absolutely destined to be an artist in every way. I had no other inclinations. I had no other desires. I had no other cares. Was that it though? I broke my neck, slam. I was riding a wave in the ocean, slamming into the ocean floor. And there are cathedrals in France from the Middle Ages that show like interesting pictures. Laura Knight Yazdik writes about this in Secret History of the World and How to Get Out Alive, where there's pictures of like a hammer on Christ's head. Bang, bang, Maxwell's silver hammer came down upon his head. And it's kind of like, that's the call to shamanism. That breaks you out of this one-dimensional awareness into awareness of the spiritual worlds, as Rudolf Steiner said. So I associate that as my call to awakening and my call to seize onto my purpose, which then I spent many years in apprenticeship with charlatans and shamans and healers and whoever I could find that knew more than me about this, because I was an artist and blissfully ignorant in everything else. Though with a slight suspicion about the medical establishment. Perhaps you have that too. And stay optimistic with me. Let's do this. Let's change the world. Thank you so much.